Okay. So I kind of delayed doing this. I haven't done a YouTube video in such a long time. But yeah, a Battlefield trailer just dropped a few days ago. I think it was Monday or something. And not right now it's Thursday. But I'm gonna do my first impressions on it. So let's go.
Defending that last point in breakthrough.
You and your
We'll watch it
squad
out
going
first.
together, trying to accomplish something.
Helicopter crashes into the building next to you, and all of a sudden the roof drops on your head.
The vehicle play is the destruction.
You've got tanks, you've got jets.
You get a bit sweaty in your palm.
That full, all-out military experience.
It's like watching a movie.
It's just unlike any other game I've played.
This franchise comes with a long history, spanning over 20 years now. But the question is, how do we continue to build on that and push Battlefield to the next level?
I've been playing Battlefield since long before I joined the team. When 1942 first
Vince?
came out, the amount of fun that we all sat down and
that's
had with
Vince.
it is just, still like a fond
He's from
memory.
Call of Duty, OG Call of Duty.
So in joining
Guess
the
you didn't know.
Battlefield team, it was about the opportunity to give that team that space to do something just more amazing even than they've done in the past.
We set out with this ambitious idea of creating this new
Yeah, I do want to say, although I'm kind of skeptical, Vince did mention that he's played Battlefield in the past, so that's kind of a silver lining to this. So we'll see how it goes.
Battlefield universe. And to make that vision reality, we had to think big.
Each of our 4 studios comes with its own culture and expertise into what we call Battlefield Studios.
One team that spans across the globe and combines 20 years of franchise experience with emerging talent.
DICE has such a rich history with Battlefield. We've been working on it for years and years. But we also want to do something bigger and better than we've ever done before. And you can't do that with one studio.
DICE is responsible for the multiplayer part of the game, which incorporates things like destruction systems, class play, squad
Kinds of
play,
parts.
vehicles, gadgets, all of those kind of underlying systems that drive the experience.
So here at Motive, we're working on multiplayer maps, and we're also working on single-player mission contents.
We're driving a cinematic experience to the level that's never been done on Battlefield before.
Okay, a dedicated team for
Ripple Effects
Maps
has a
and
long history of
self-design.
working on the Battlefield franchise.
We're working on an experience that is really going to open Battlefield up to a whole group of new players, but really still exciting that core audience that has made this franchise so successful.
Criterion have been supporting Battlefield for a decade now, and now we're going to bring that to the table as a fully fledged kind of partner in the Battlefield studios.
Mainly, we've been focused on the single player experience. So the campaign is back for Battlefield.
I'll be playing the
We have
campaign.
never before had this many teams and talents dedicated to the development of Battlefield. And we have a plan to create a new, exciting future for the franchise, alongside our players.
This game has so much potential. So I think it's about giving the team this time to really hone their craft.
Look at the production value of this sort of teaser trailer. I'm talking. Just look at the camera that they use and the sort of cinematic effects that they've put into this. That's some serious cinematic or teaser quality. I just thought that was funny.
We have to prototype, play test, get feedback
And then repeat that loop.
over and over and over again. We have to find gameplay that really resonates with the players and then build on that. Battlefield Labs is our new development initiative where players will get to test specific focus areas in the game.
We've done similar things in the past, but this is a whole nother level. We're doing it before we launch the game, and we're doing it with so much more content.
It's an exciting way for us to interact with our audience before things go live and make sure that what we have is really fun and polished.
And we have to test everything, combat to destruction to maps and modes.
We're going to test all the new features that we're putting out, and we're going to test hardware like weapons, vehicles, and gadgets.
We can try different things, but also validate what players are expecting from Battlefield.
I like it.
That feedback is crucial in helping us know what to prioritize, what needs improvement, and what feels like a true Battlefield experience.
We're pre-alpha, so now is the time to test all the experiences our teams have been building for our upcoming launch and beyond.
Join our Discord where you can learn more about our new closed testing environment. We call it Battlefield Labs. Let's build Battlefield together.
That's the full trailer. I'm gonna pause it right here.
Battlefield
So,
together.
40
Together.
41. Right there. Perfect. I just want to say that, sort of as a preface, I did sign up for the Battlefield Lab pre-alpha testing, essentially. So I did register for it. That's as far as I can say. I know that those who may have gotten invited or accepted, they're under NDA, so they can't provide further details regarding that, or you know what they do inside there. But yeah, many of the OG Battlefield streamers, content creators, YouTubers have likely signed up for it as well. So just keep that in mind. Their opinion, their pre-opinion of Battlefield, I would say, is it's subject to change. Plus, you also have to keep in mind that certain content creators might be closer to DICE than your average consumer or your average streamer or YouTuber. It's hard to really say who's what or who has connection to what. But you got to keep that in mind when it comes to these things. Teasers, trailers, even in like cinema, like movies and stuff. There are ambassadors, there's partners, there's people who do sponsors. So maybe your favorite Battlefield streamers or YouTubers might have some sort of affiliation with DICE, or may have taken part in the past, and now they may be invited to take part again in this future testing phase. So that's basically what I want to say is you got to get multiple perspectives. You got to go through different videos, first impressions, reviews from different YouTubers, different streamers, and see what they say. You can't just stick with one, because you don't know if they are sort of sponsoring or marketing on behalf of DICE. So they might not be as critical, or they might withhold certain opinions. But that's just how I approach things. Is you want to get multiple perspective. You want a variety, small streamers, large streamers, small YouTubers, large YouTubers. You don't want to blind yourself. Because all of this is to generate hype. Now, a lot of these content creators that I've watched, they're pretty good at keeping it pretty balanced. But I always try to watch different videos from different YouTubers. I mean, generally, most of the OG Battlefield YouTubers and streamers, they've generally been pretty good when it comes to this. Trying to show like a balanced sort of opinion. But yeah, so it's something worth talking about or mentioning. Anyways, they did mention at the beginning forming their largest studio, Criterion, DICE, and then the other two. That just means that they had 4 separate studios and they're merging into one to work on this huge project. Obviously some studios are gonna work on the multiplayer component. Some are gonna work on the single player component, and then some just focus on the level design and maps and other stuff. But I think that was kind of the smart move to do. You can't just have one studio trying to do all these different components. I'm not sure exactly what Criterion did in terms of the previous Battlefields. Like, did they work on Battlefield 1 or 5 campaign? I didn't get to play those myself, but I did play Battlefield 3 and 4. So, whoever worked on that, they did a pretty good job. Now, I know that most people don't really care too much about the campaign. I played Battlefield 3's campaign at least 3 or 4 times, and Battlefield 4's at least 3 times, and enjoyed them every single time. However, I do gotta say that there is very little transition from 3 to 4. Maybe a few characters reappear, but there is no cohesion there. Plus, going from 3 to 4, from like a modern settings or near future modern setting to 1 to 5, World War 1 to World War 2, the timeline is kind of inconsistent. So I would like to see that they sort of have a cohesive storyline and a cohesive timeline and a realistic real world settings. I don't know exactly where they're going to take us, but based off what we saw in this trailer, it looks like they're bringing us back to the Middle East. And if you remember with Battlefield 3, if you've played this campaign, you were basically essentially playing in the Middle East. I would assume near like somewhere near like Syria and Iran or somewhere. I couldn't really say, I can't remember, but with the way the trailer is looking, it's, we're back in there with the sort of sandy and sort of deserty look to it. And yeah, I mean, it looks like it might be a continuation of Battlefield 3. If you've played the Battlefield 4 campaign, you'll probably remember that the main sort of belligerents were US, Russia, and China. I'm not sure how much Iran played into it, or the Middle East played into it, but there might have been some aspects there. But I think that this one looks more closely tied to the Battlefield 3 storyline. So that's interesting to see. I'm not sure if they're gonna sort of dial it back to the beginning or completely revamp the story altogether, or bring any of the previous characters in. So we'll see on that. I guess sort of going back to the beginning of the trailer,
you and your
they
squad
did show
going
Battlefield
into the
3
building next.
gameplay 4, 5, and 1. So that's pretty neat. I do gotta say that if they're gonna go for the next Battlefield, and a lot of people have mentioned this before, but I would say go for the polish of Battlefield 4. Try to go for the gunplay of Battlefield 3, and then go for the visual fidelity and the audio qualities of Battlefield 1. Battlefield 1 has such a good gunplay as well, so if you can even modernize Battlefield 1 and optimize it for performance, try and get it as polished as Battlefield 4, good, that'd be good too. But all 3 of them, just take the best pieces of all 3 of them, and then you got yourself the next Battlefield. Now, in terms of the timeline, we gotta go back to modern. We can't go to we can't try and push off of Battlefield 5 onto the Cold War era, transitioning to either the Korean War or the Vietnam War. So I think that we just gotta go back to modern. Plus, with Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 being out, Battlefield needs to push something out. Now, Battlefield does not need to push anything out this year, and I hope they don't. I would hope that they push something out at least by next year, like at least an open beta. But I would be very skeptical if they push out the next Battlefield by the end of this year. It's too soon. they need to take their time on this. They need to polish the game up. They need to work on optimizations. They need to take a lot of feedback from the community, and then, work with the general audience, or the long time players, the people who like to give feedback and see what works. Continue doing testing, do stress tests, do what you need to do. Don't set arbitrary deadlines for no reason and then rush a unfinished product. That's my warning to DICE. Because this has been going on for such a long time. I would even admit from Battlefield 3 to 4 and onward, they keep pushing out products that were buggy at the very beginning. Later on, they finally polish it up. They did the same with Battlefield 4 and 3. Well, it's nice to see that they try and keep game alive and then try and fix it up. It's just not a sustainable business move. It's like, just work on it. Just take your time, make it the best it can be. Like, why would you push out a vehicle that is experiencing troubles with its transmission or it's leaking oil, and then go back and try and fix it? It just costs way more to fix something than to spend your time and fix it ahead of time before you launch. So that's the crucial aspect of this development project. So I hope that they considered taking their time.
I've been playing Battlefield.
I know it's been a while. I know it's been a while for the Battlefield community, but we just had 2042 not that long ago, right? And we just don't need another one of that. And then they gotta seriously listen to the community. They can't just push out a title in a weird timeline that the community had never really asked for. It seems to me that they didn't gauge the community response ahead of time, or they didn't really take the community seriously and see what they really wanted. Of all the years that I've played Battlefield since number 3, I haven't been there before that. There's people who have been there since Battlefield 1 and 2. But for me, I've been paying attention to what the community has been saying, and all they have been saying is to make the next modern Battlefield, and brush up, improve over number 3s and 4. Those were already good. Everything else was just like, it was just confusing. It's like, why did we change pace? But that's a lesson learned for DICE.
On the team. When 1940
reality.
Let's see. And as we go along, they're just mentioning all the separate teams here, and then some concept arts. I mean, I'm glad to see that they're really trying to push for this and get it right. I'm kind of worried about the onboarding of different leads and producers and directors. Now, we just gotta give them a chance and see what they can whip out. But I really hope that they don't change the identity of Battlefield and the direction of the game. Keep it to its core. Class-based system, simple gunplay, no weird perk system, no weird kill streak system. Those are all Call of Duty. We don't want that. Now, what you do with the gunsmithing or the weapon editing system, I really liked how they had it in Battlefield 4, but the interface could have been done better. Now, this on-the-fly weapons attachment system is okay, but I think that it limits the amount of attachments that you can put on your weapon, because you can only have a limited amount of attachments that can fit on the interface. So I do see its strengths and weaknesses. It's cool on the fly. You don't have to go into the menu just to edit your weapon. You can just do it right there and then. But I do like the amount of options there were in Battlefield 4. The amount of firearms that were available per class and per category. For example, they had something like 10 assault rifles and 10 submachine guns, and then it's like 8 or 9 DMRs and sniper rifles. So just, you know, just having enough options for users, fine. Battlefield 4 did a pretty good job with balancing weapons. And the attachments, they could have done better with giving more attachment types, like rear grip, stock, barrel, and, you know, upper and lower receiver, whatever, for grip. But they had a good amount of options in terms of attachments. They just needed to give it a little bit more customization. As far as gunplay goes, I gotta say, you cannot beat Battlefield when it comes to gunplay. People say that Call of Duty is the sort of the golden, sort of like the golden trophy. I don't even know what you call it, but when it comes to gunplay, Call of Duty is the gold standard. Honestly, I started playing Call of Duty before I played Battlefield. I started with Call of Duty World at War, and I gotta say, Battlefield is, in my opinion, the gold standard when it comes to gunplay, and 3 and 4 is where it's at for me. Now 1 is also pretty good too, but if only I can test it in a modern settings, it'd be easier to gauge. But they did a pretty good job with that. There's some things I liked about Battlefield 1 that were not available in Battlefield 3 or 4, like the critical shot system, where you had kind of a sweet spot when it comes to sniping. That was very satisfying, and I liked how they did that. I still like how Battlefield 3 and 4, they're sort of the way weapons recoil, and you had to shoot in bursts rather than full auto it or pop shot it in order to control it. And then sniping is always fun with the way the ballistic system is, and bullet drop. That was what sold me on Battlefield. Call of Duty finally implemented something like that in Modern Warfare 1, the 2019 edition, but I think Battlefield just did a better job at it. They've been doing it for such a long time. If you played Battlefield 2, you'll know what I mean if you ever tried long range sniping or using anything like an RPG. It's just playing with the bullet drop system. It's a fun thing that I like to mess around with in Battlefield. Graphics wise, I would say Battlefield 1 nailed it. It's kind of hard to beat. Now 3 and 4 still look pretty good, but I gotta admit, Battlefield 1, when they introduced photogrammetry, and things just looked really nice. The ground, the foliage, the vegetation, the atmosphere, the fog, and the darkness, and the loomingness, the desperation, the sort of feeling of despair really captured, the theme of the game, which is World War I. And they did such a good job with that. Even in multiplayer, it felt like you were in actual war zone. So if they're really looking to or if they really want something to work off of, I would say look at Battlefield 1 in terms of visual fidelity and their audio quality. Amazing. All three of them did a good job. But I think Battlefield 1 really nailed it. There's some things in Battlefield 4 that is done better, and some things in 3 as well. But I think 1 is kind of where it's at. So, and then I guess the next thing I wanted to talk about is things that they should avoid, and then things that they should do. So in terms of avoiding, I guess it's hard to sort of list it out verbally, so I'm gonna sort of write it down here. So I'm gonna post this link to my YouTube video. I won't do a whole lot of editing. I'm just gonna cut it so that it's so I can render this video, and then I'll upload it. I'm not savvy when it comes to video editing, so all I do is just record it and post it. That's it. And then I cut out the excess on the outside of the time frame. But yeah, so it's sort of like a do's and don'ts, really. So I'm gonna just write don'ts, or I just write bad, just sort of simplify it, and good. And some of these things I already talked about, but I'm just gonna start with the bad. I think one thing I mentioned is a loot crate, or more specifically RNG loot crate or loot box. So if you're familiar with a lot of these live service games, a lot of them have, like, for example, in League you have Hextech chest, or in Rainbow you have these little packets that you open and it comes with skins. I personally don't like them. I would rather have a battle pass system where you can grind it and you know exactly what you'll get. Otherwise, if you're spending money on microtransactions, I know that those won't go away. I personally am not a huge fan of microtransactions, but I've seen myself buy skins before in game, which is fine. If you're gonna do microtransactions, whatever the user is seeing is what they get, and that's the preferred method. Like, for example, if they want this this camo skin for this weapon, it should be exactly what they get, what they pay for. In terms of like pricing, skins should not be worth more than $20. Seriously, I've seen skins worth $60 in some of these games. Some skins worth $50 in Valorant. It's an excessive price, and you know, I just think that personally for me, it's not really a good idea to sort of put that into the game. It's kind of to me, it's sort of exploitative. But I know that microtransactions can't be avoided, but there's good ways to do it and there's bad ways to do it. Now, I know that the battle pass system is sort of rubbing people the wrong way, but somehow, some way, the guys at COD managed to pull it off in a way where it's okay. So for example, if in Call of Duty, you don't have to buy anything whatsoever. I have not bought a single skin in COD. I think I probably only just earned it from like drops or whatever. But you can grind a battle pass and then unlock 3 new weapons every season or season and a half for free, and you can unlock everything on that free side of the battle pass. Now, and then if you wanted to get the premium one, you can unlock the skins, the special ones on the other side, the premium side. You know, that gives player options. People get to grind the gun that they want for free, and then on the other side, people who want to go further and grind the premium skin, they have that. You know, as I said, ideally in the perfect world where AAA games are $60-$70, I would personally not want to see microtransactions at all. But if they're gonna do it, then do it in a way which is fair, you know. And the number one rule for me is every single microtransaction should only be aesthetics, anything that does not affect your gameplay. So you should never hide anything that can change how you are, you know, how effectively you play, or anything that can change your performance. So anything that gives you like a stat boost, or anything that makes you play somehow have an advantage or play better. So personally for me, I do not like the idea of having guns behind DLCs or microtransactions, like unique guns. I would rather just have it where everyone has access to it, but you just gotta grind for it. Call of Duty did that right. In the past, in Battlefield 3 and 4, they have paywalled certain guns. Like, you had to buy the DLC in order to unlock this weapon. Now, they kind of balanced it out with the fact that some of these guns may have the same exact stats as existing guns that come with the base game. That's fair enough, but I don't like the idea of just paywalling a weapon in a game. Same thing with vehicles, same thing with maps. Like, everyone should be able to have access to all the maps in a continual update. And even in Call of Duty, you can still play the new maps, even if you didn't buy the battle pass or premium battle pass, whatever. It's not paywalled, so anyone can play those new maps. So yeah, so that's kind of my take on it. It's like, don't introduce anything that comes even close to gambling. And RNG loot crate and loot boxes are a nightmare. They're in almost every live service game. You know, Counter-Strike, I believe Dota, League, Valorant, Apex Legends. They're just everywhere. And it just kind of encourages people to spend irresponsibly. And you got kids playing the game. Now, that's not really just a responsibility of the company. However, you know, you introduce these systems into the game and people will utilize it. So there is a bit of responsibility, in my opinion, when you are developing a media and you add stuff in there and people can utilize it. So it kind of falls back on you as a developer. So that's the way I see it. The good, I would say, physics-based destruction and ballistics. So as I said, the gunplay from Battlefield 3, 4, and 1 is pretty good. I like the idea of bullet drop and the skill it takes to learn it and understand it. So they just got to keep working at it and, you know, just fine-tune it. Obviously, for number 3 and 4, they slowed down the bullet or whatever it is that you can shoot in order for it to give you like sort of a sense of its effect, meaning that the projectiles in the game are actually slower than it is in real life. You probably wouldn't even be able to see it easily, but that's just so that you can, you know, feel it. And some of the guns are slower than they are in real life, because I think if you ever shoot in a fully automatic weapon that has 900 RPM, that empties out really quick. But the game had to slow it down in order to you know, make it more fun, I guess. But that's fine, whatever. But they just got to make sure that the ballistic systems is nice and tuned. That's it. They've done a good job already with that, and that's what drew me into Battlefield. The physics-based destruction. Now I know that they brought in a lot of gimmicky, how do you say, destruction. So Levolution in Battlefield 4, that's fine. Levolution to me was scripted destruction. That's okay, but you don't want to make the game revolve around scripted destruction. I think for me, physics-based destruction is where it's at. If you have to use the Havoc engine, many of you might not be familiar with it, but the Havoc engine is like sort of this side little add-on, or not say add-on, but something that you can introduce into a game, and it sort of simulates just sort of like rocks falling or whatever, or just like physics-based destruction. I don't know how to describe it, but there should be more of that, more of the, you know, just random destruction than it is scripted. Now I know that in the campaign or in the trailers, you're gonna have to add those scripted sort of destruction, and what I mean by that is that it's sort of cinematic destruction. It's like if you do a certain condition or you meet a certain action, then it will react accordingly. But then the problem was that it reacts the same every time. So for example, in the China Rising map, if you hit those 4 pillars, it's gonna do the exact same fall, or maybe they have like 4 variations of it. But like for me is, sure, you can add that in, but I would prefer that you know, we'd be able to destroy buildings like the ones in the background or whatever. You see, like this entire facade, I should be able to knock this entire thing down if I had enough explosives, like an RPG, or if if my teammate were lining up the pillars with C4, I should be able to knock this building down or whatever. That's what we mean by physics destruction. It should the way it breaks apart and falls down should never be the same every single time, because you know there are so many variations, right? There's so many different ways for us to destroy them. One guy could be using an RPG on one of the support columns, another guy could be using a C4 on the other side, and it should never fall the exact same way. So that's what we, you know, what people prefer for, you know, as long-time Battlefield players. And grounds should deform if people are dropping like a JDAM from their aircrafts, it should completely obliterate the floor and half of this building, or maybe this entire block. I don't know, but obviously, one of the things I do got to say is that not everything can be destroyable. Some things just must stand in order for infantry to have cover. So for me, I understand where it's fun to like in Battlefield 2 where you can completely flatten the map, but I think that there's an importance in making sure that certain structures are harder to destroy, because you know, if everything can be destroyed, then infantry has no cover, and that means aircrafts and tanks reign supreme every single time. So having meaningful levels of destruction and some structures that are meant to protect infantry, like bridges or really heavy columns of concrete, so that they can traverse the map, is important to get from point to point. So I understand where you sort of draw the line, but right now the game could add a little bit more levels of destruction, or not a little bit more, a whole lot more. They could do so much better. I do want to say with regards to this trailer, this looks to me like sort of a campaign, right? So a lot of these effects you might not see in the multiplayer component. So for example, as this person is running, right, these boxes were probably scripted to blow up and then sort of shoot towards your player. So just keep that in mind. That the explosion was probably scripted to happen at that time or whatever. So until we see the actual multiplayer gameplay, we don't really know for sure yet. This is just a rough draft of the pre-alpha, right? So this might not even make it into the game because it's all tentative. So that's just something to keep in mind when you're watching a pre-alpha trailer. But it looks pretty good so far. The gun models look pretty good. It looks like they put a lot of work into map density or level design density, more objects and just more fragments, more rocks and dust, and then explosions. And it looks like the classes are back. You know, your support, assault, engineer, recon. Maybe they'll add a few more in. I don't know, like grenadier or something. I don't know, but I'm glad to see that they're making a return. And then also the weapon choices looks like it's kind of funny though, because the US military recently adopted a new infantry weapon system. So that's the new SIG MCX Spear. I kind of want to see that implemented in the game. I know that some branches are slow to move on to the next weapon because they're still doing field testing and stuff. So that's why we obviously see the modern M4 carbine or M4A something, A5. I don't know my variants, but I do want to see the new lineup as well. The 6.8 millimeter or capable 6.5, 6.8 to 7, 6.2 capable rifles. The new SIG ones and the new SCARs. So that's pretty interesting to see. But you know, we got your classic M4. And as far as settings go, I'm fine with this, right? I know for me, I prefer that they transition to East Europe to cover the ongoing war in Ukraine, but having it return back to the Middle East and Battlefield 3, that's fine too. I know that there's always something going on between the US and Iran, so it's interesting to see them go back to that. And you know what? A lot of the locations in Battlefield 3 I did not know exist in real life, like Oman and the canals or whatever, Suez or whatnot. I wasn't like, I don't know all my the entire world map, but they did a pretty good job with sort of shedding light on what's going on in the Middle East, or you know, in sort of this fictional world, sort of parallel with what's going on in real life, I guess. Yeah, right now the textures of everything looks kind of rough. I know the gun model looks good, but the buildings and the boxes and the rocks and stuff, I mean, they're all like, they're not the highest quality of textures yet. So I'm not too worried. Maybe we'll get some high quality texture packs in the future. I just hope that they don't take up too much space. I think another issue to highlight is that optimization and performance. A lot of AAA games are not optimizing their games and are not trying to reduce their storage footprint. Like, we got games that are like 200 gigs or so, some even almost reaching 300 gigs if you count all the DLCs and add-ons. And to me, that's pretty unacceptable. So I hope that they focus on network optimization and also just sort of optimization in terms of like the game file size and, you know, performance and just in general. That's just a huge one for me. Another thing I wanted to highlight is a robust anti-cheat and ban system. It feels kind of non-existent in Battlefield. I think they just recently re-implemented in Battlefield 1, but honestly, it doesn't feel existent throughout the all of Battlefield, in my opinion. If they have to, if they need to implement like BattleEye or Easy Anti-Cheat, then go for it. But they need to modernize their anti-cheat system and really focus on it. Like, I've seen a lot of how do you say, streams where they just, you know, you just go up against like blatant scripters or cheaters in game, and it seems like they're able to do it with impunity. So I want to see DICE sort of crack down on that and also be pretty transparent. You know, show if an account was banned for cheats or whatever, or, you know, exploitation or whatever. It should be publicly visible. It's like, just don't hold back on that. And also they should be pretty strict on it too. So, well, like, if there's one thing that can really destroy a game is if it's overrun by scripters and cheaters. Number two is if I think in the past, like for example in PUBG or H1, overrun by it's so weird. It's hard to say. Like, I don't mind cross-region gameplay, but then I've seen it where some regions would coordinate together in a way where it's like not only cheating but hurts the gameplay as well. For example, in PUBG or H1, if you recall, in the Battle Royale, there would be a tremendous amount of teaming, which is cheating. Basically, it's a free-for-all. However, players are banding together and sort of squatting it up in groups of 10s or 20s or whatever, just playing together. Now, that's clearly against the rules in a free-for-all, and I would hope to see that there's a more robust way, an easier way for regular players like you and me to be able to report players and see the actual results of it. Now, I know that there's such things as false reporting or false flags, and there's probably ways to remedy that by check, and that's where that brings me to a replay system, replay or DefCAN system. I think can go a long way. Now Battlefield didn't really do that. They instead do it in a way where you can see the player that killed you, where their position is, but there was no actual DefCAM system, or there wasn't even like an actual replay system. I would like to see both of them implemented. Now, whether you players actually use it or not, just give them the option to turn it off or on. Like if it's really hurting their system or using up too many resources, just give them the option to turn it off. But I would like to see the option to view replays. That also gives content creators a tool to do cinematics as well. But for me, the important part is being able to review a match to see if they are actually cheating, and then give me the ability to report while being able to review those replays. That just helps everybody. That helps players report, and it gives them something to work off. They can timestamp it, or they can show the actual screenshot of what's going on. But there should be many tools to combat cheating in the game, and also players should be notified if their feedback has resulted in action, so that players are feeling like they are being listened to, and that it's worth reporting. I know that it has to be both a community side thing between the players and the server admins, and then and with the players and the studio, the game studio themselves, right? There should be multi-layered levels of ways to combat cheating and exploitation in a game. Another thing I want to mention is the prox chat. I think that I know that they haven't really added that into Battlefield. I know that in Battlefield 4 there was the ability to voice chat in squads only, but I think that they should implement something similar to either Squad or BattleBit, or Hell Let Loose, where you can use prox chat if you want. Just give players the ability to turn it off or on or whatever, but be on by default. I think that one of the issues with Battlefield in general is that it can feel very quiet, even for a chaotic game without voice chatter and players be able to interact with each other. It just feels kind of dull sometimes. Proc chat can make the game feel more live and animated, and you can have unique moments in the game. I think that players being able to talk to each other will make it more like socially fun, I guess. Not only just chaos in the game, but being able to speak with each other. Obviously, you want to have a strong system where you can report someone that's being disruptive or toxic or saying really offensive things. That's sort of another topic, but I think prox chat can come a long way. But you're gonna have to have a little bit of, well, pretty much a strong level of moderation. I think some games do it pretty well, where they sort of like, let you know that, hey, the game audio is being recorded for quality insurance, obviously, and to ensure that players are not griefing each other. So as long as there's a support system there, a way to report or mute players, then it should be all good for now, I think. I mean, if Squad and BattleBit can implement it, Hell Let Loose can implement it, Arma can implement it well, then I think Battlefield should, transition to it as well. I think the ammo system, I think they can just take some inspiration from BattleBit. I know that some games do the whole ammo pool system or the mag pool system. I would say just follow what BattleBit did, or Squad, or Arma. They did a good job. There's no need to reinvent the wheel, and you don't have to. For me, it makes players play more smartly. That's something I said in the past. They tried to do it, but they didn't do it well. They actually implemented a sort of semi-mag pull system, but players were burning through their ammunition too fast, because what would happen is in Battlefield 4, early on in the testing, players would shoot a couple shots, reload, and then that mag was gone. That was not the idea. What they should have done was, if, for example, you have 5 mags and you're on mag number 1 and you shoot maybe half of it, it just goes to the back. It's still there. You can go back to it, but you load up a full mag with 30 rounds in it, but you still have that half mag still in your inventory. So look at what BattleBit did. Simple game, but I like the way they did it. They also added the ability to combine mags together. So if you have half a mag and half a mag, you can combine them to a full mag. And then you have quick reloading, where you just drop a mag and then you reload to the next one, and then you can pick up that mag. That was fine. I think BattleBit made it nice and simple, and there's no, as I said, there's no need to reinvent the wheel. Just sort of implement what they do, but do it better and do it more more smoothly, I guess. Gunplay, I do want to say another thing is, I don't know why COD and Battlefield are sort of immune, or how do you say, allergic to leaning, but they gotta add manual lean. We're not talking context lean, where you walk up to a wall and then it triggers a lean, or you press a button and it leans into a wall. I'm saying just put Q and E, if you're keyboard and mouse, as a lean button. Right. If you ever played Squad, Arma, Ready or Not, BattleBit, Rainbow, they have leaning where you can hit a button and it leans left or right without any additional inputs, without any additional conditions, right? Just why would you not add that in there? I don't know why they never did, but they got to do that. I know that on the keyboard and mouse, Q is the spotting button, but they could have just remapped that to one of the thumb buttons on the mouse, which makes more sense, right? And then the other thumb button should have been the ping button. I mean the spotting is the ping button essentially, but also they do need to add 3D pinging in the game too, right? But it should be like temporarily. You ping it, but then it doesn't stay on there forever. You don't want players spamming that. That's about as much as I can think of. Balancing is something I've always said. With number 2, 3, and 4, they gotta give more power to infantry in terms of being able to take on vehicles. Obviously, you don't want it to be one tap all the time, right? But infantry should have a good amount of tools and effective tools for taking down aircrafts or, light armored or heavy armored vehicles, right? I know that for balancing reasons, they nerfed some of the launchers in Battlefield 3 and 4 to, make it so that some of these vehicles have a chance to live, but they should really reconsider upping some of the damage and the range for some launchers that are available to the engineers. For example, the Igla and Stingers and Javelin, those are way too weak. There's too many ways where a aircraft can evade or effectively, because helicopters and jets have an infinite amount of countermeasures, smokes or flares. There's no limit to that. If they want to, they can limit the amount of smokes and flares you can use, so that eventually you use it up, then now you're out of it. So players have to play more smartly when they're flying the aircrafts. But for me, the issue is that these launchers are either too short ranged or don't do enough damage. And then in Battlefield 4 and 3, you can't log on to low flying aircrafts, right? So many of them just dodge behind a house or just fly low or fly out of range, or they can fly really high. so it's really hard to hit them. And a lot of times I've seen matches where the dominating team is determined by the aircrafts, right? Because they're completely destroying the tanks or the infantry vehicles or light armored or whatever armored vehicles on the ground vehicles. And the only thing we can do is try and hit them with a low range Stinger or an Igla that, you know, can easily lose his lock, especially when players are playing stealth coding, whatever. So just got to be a little bit more balanced. I would say tune it a little bit more so that infantry has better man pads, you know, with better range and better destruction. That way they're not getting overwhelmed by aircrafts, and then provide more ground options as well. Like there should be things on the ground where you can click on it and then you can use it, you know, launchers that are sort of fixed launchers or whatever. But yeah, it's I would say just provide better balancing with that. I've seen too many times where a lot of matches are like, I don't know, like a 900 point difference because they had some godly jet fighters or jet players or really strong attack helicopter players that are just completely annihilating the enemy team. So better balancing in terms of like server options, and then better tools for players in game to counter those really powerful vehicles, right? And then another thing I gotta say is that they should have the ability to report servers for unfair play. I've seen it where some server owners will boot you if they're losing, they would boot you to the other side so that they, you know, end up winning, or they'll shuffle players around so that it's in their favor, or move all the best players onto their team. So they got to give us a little bit more options to report those type of behaviors for like server owners and stuff like that. I don't think it's gonna be official servers, but you know, near the end of life for the game, it's gonna be majority private servers or privately owned servers, and you know, players should feel like they're jumping into a fair match. And I know that some server owners will, you know, implement rules in their favor or move things around in their favor just as a power trip. I hope that DICE sort of reins in on that and sort of takes lead on it as well. And I think that just covers about everything. I think that if more ideas come up, I would probably submit like a feedback to it. So we'll see. I did say that I registered for the playtest. I don't know when I'll actually participate because I saw the minimum requirements and my computer obviously doesn't meet those. Mine is on the low end, so I will have to do a computer upgrade so that I can get involved with the testing. But from there, I can't really discuss any details beyond that. If I do get in, but I would be, you know, really happy with being able to submit feedbacks and fill out surveys and stuff like that. But yeah, and sort of the last thing is that I want to say is for players is to vote with your wallet. A lot of people are saying no to pre-orders, which is for me is fine. Just be responsible. You know, games are pretty pricey now. $70 is pretty steep compared to the cost of living. So that's the price of groceries for like maybe a few days. So it's a hefty priced game, and it's gonna likely be at least $70. So that's your money. Don't fear on missing out. I would say at least wait a month if you're patient before you jump into the game, right? For new players, obviously those who have been around for a while will likely jump in on day one, or maybe even pre-order. But I'd say for the majority of players, watch the reviews, watch what the streamers are saying, watch what the YouTubers are saying, watch what the review sites are saying, and see how it is after a month, right? See how many players are actually playing anymore after the first month of launch, and then, you know, continue watching, and then from there make your decision. There's no need to rush into the game, even if like you're a long time Battlefield player, especially with the way 5 and 2042 and Hardline panned out. Like, everyone's more cautious now, so I would have to agree. Don't pre-order if you don't need to, and the only people who will get in early are usually the content creators. I would say just wait for what they say. Now, keep in mind that as I said in the beginning of the video, said that some might be sponsored, some might be partnered, some might be affiliated. That's why you gotta get multiple perspectives from different creators and see what they say each. And that's why I say like wait at least a month, because that's usually the amount of time it takes for, or the contract period, right? Some may last maybe a couple hours, some may last a couple days, a week, a month, or even like a full year or so. But just keep in mind that everyone that you see that is pushing out content, either whether they're streaming the game or pushing out YouTube videos, you got to keep in mind that some might be sponsored to market the game, and they might have opinions meant to entice you to buy the game. You got to get multiple perspectives. You got to make sure that you find a balanced creator that can effectively provide valid criticisms, as well as, you know, show what they like or point out what they like and don't like, without being influenced. So as of this moment, I am currently not affiliated, sponsored, or partnered with DICE. I did register for their playtest. I don't know if I've even got in. I might have. I don't know. I was able to register and do a survey, but I haven't got my hands on the game yet. If I did, that's for a later discussion, but this is just my impression before I even get my hands on the game, so just keep that in mind. But the chances of me getting sponsored at all as a small-time creator is very low, so this is the best I can offer. But I will discuss more over the next few weeks or so, and the lead up to the next Battlefield. I think realistically, we might see like at least a closed beta by the end of this year, and then maybe by early of next year we'll see an open beta. Maybe by mid of the year we see a launch or so. Who knows? But as long as they take their time on it, I'm fine with that. But yeah, usually I think from what I've experienced in the past, they have done a sort of like an early access. Then they did a closed beta where anyone can register and get invited, and then open beta where you can just literally launch the game and play it. And then they did a full launch. Historically, they've done launches in fall of the 3rd or 4th year. So I think the last few games were like, I think from what I know, number 3 and 4 were in like either October or November or whatever. I'm not sure what 5 and 2042 was. I think it was around the same time, somewhere in fall, but it was like a 2 to 3 year spacing. So maybe an open beta somewhere in summer, and then a full launch in fall of 2026. Closed beta might be the first quarter or during the springtime of next year, and maybe a closed alpha testing of this year, throughout this year. So I don't know for sure, but that's my best guess. But yeah, right now all I can say is development is looking pretty good, but with everything going on with DICE and Battlefield franchise, I would say always, and as the level cap has said, proceed with caution. Everyone is optimistic, but I would say be cautious about it, right? Because we've been shafted before in 2042, and that turned out to be a bit of a flop. So we just gotta, just pay attention, keep up, see what others are saying, get multiple perspectives, and see what the developers are saying. Hopefully they're gonna be more transparent about the development of the game. It seems like they sort of learned their lesson. However, what is shown before launch might be different post-launch. So what the promises that are made before the game releases might change. So that's something to keep in mind. I will try to pay as best of attention as I can to the development of this game. I've been sort of following the franchise since, ever since Battlefield 3 and 4. I know I haven't been there beyond that, so 2 and stuff. I've only played the Battlefield play for free prior to Battlefield 3, which is kind of like 2, but yeah, not exactly. But yeah, I think that's around like 2011 or so. The franchise went further than that. But for me, as I said, I'm excited to play the next Battlefield. I just hope that they actually listen to the community and actually implement the things that the community wants. I know that they've done play tests and they've contracted out content creators and gotten their feedback. And from what I've heard, especially when it came to 2042, that those content creators gave the feedback, but DICE ultimately did not implement them, or ended up implementing something that players were saying were not good. So hopefully DICE listens this time. I don't know, but as I said, you gotta proceed with caution on this. Like, this does remind me of Battlefield 3, and I hope it stays that way. And I'm glad that they removed the tint. Battlefield 4 had sort of like a brown sepia-ish tint. Battlefield 3 had a blue tint. I'll say don't add any tint. Just keep it natural. Just work on making the environment look great, and how it would look in real life. You don't need to add some sort of grading to it, unless it's like for the campaign, like the story mode, where you want to add that cinematic effect to it. But you don't want to do that all the time. Like Battlefield 4 was always blue all the time. Battlefield 3 was brown all the time, brown and orange. You don't need to do that. It just looks weird. Anyways, that's just sort of my rant about the next Battlefield. So I'm gonna try and get this uploaded. I know that I was actually meant to make this video 10 minutes long, but we're at 1 hour and 8 minutes, and I don't think I'm gonna cut anything. I'm just gonna trim off the front end and the back end of this video, but I'm just gonna upload it without any special editing or any sort of crazy effects or anything. It's not my style. I just record and post it. That's really it. We'll record and how do you say? But anyways, yeah, hopefully they bring out more teasers and trailers and I can sort of give my opinions on those, but this is what we got for now. But it's looking interesting so far, and sort of homage to Battlefield 3 for the sound. Oh yeah, these are the studios that are sort of merged together. The Criterion, DICE, Ripple Effect, and Motive. All now all sort of the Battlefield studios all together. So I just thought that was interesting. I hope that they're implementing. They're not doing the Battlefield 3.5 engine like they did with 1. I want to see an improved Battlefield 4 engine, which I think that's the case. Frostbite 4, essentially. But yeah, that's probably what we're gonna get. Anyways, that's all I have to say. If I come out with something else, I'll probably have to put it in a separate video. But yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to it. Obviously, I want to give as much feedback as possible. I have to be critical in order to be balanced. So if there's something that I don't like, then I will say it. However, as I said, with the Battlefield Studios or the play testing, some things are under NDA, so I can't really discuss much about what I will see in there. But once the NDA is lifted, then I will, give my best opinion. Hopefully, try to give the best balanced opinion on the development of the game. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Anyways, I'm head off it now. Y'all have a good one.